Polk County Sheriff's Office in Florida is investigating the death of 46-year-old registered sex offender Eric Nelson after he violently attacked detention deputies at the South County Jail. On the 23rd of December, the authorities responded to Taco Bell at 4165 US Highway 98 North in Lakeland on a report of a possible burglary suspect. Officers located Eric across the road at a Starbucks parking lot and found syringes and a baggie containing a substance that tested positive for meth in a backpack. Eric told the officers that he uses the needles to shoot meth. He was placed under arrest and charged with possession of meth and drug paraphernalia. After being transported to the Sheriff's Processing Center, Eric became agitated and cursed at the jail and nursing staff. Eric said that he hadn't slept for 5 days and had recently got out of prison, and said sometimes you have to prove yourself. Medical staff noted that he appeared to be under the influence of illegal narcotics and was placed into a private holding cell, where he became extremely aggressive and began to repeatedly kick the cell door. Deputies said that due to his violent behaviour and threats to harm deputies and other inmates, medical staff determined that he would need to be placed in the medical dorm on suicide watch at the South County Jail in Frostproof. After his arrival at the facility at just before noon, detention deputies told Eric to remove his clothing and to put on a smock, at which point Eric threw his shirt on the ground and struck a deputy twice in the face. Eric fought with at least 3 deputies as attempts were made to put him back into handcuffs. Deputies used a chemical spray to gain control of Eric, but it had no effect, and he continued to fight and resist deputies. Eric eventually had shackles on his legs and handcuffs on both of his wrists. While being carried by 4 deputies, he continued to fight. He was then taken to a cell where he was placed on the floor. Once Eric's restraints were removed and deputies were preparing to leave, they observed that Eric was no longer breathing and his face was changing colour. Medical staff immediately began CPR, and Eric was transported to the hospital, where he was later pronounced dead. The medical examiner will conduct an autopsy to determine the manner and cause of his death. Eric has a long criminal history spanning over the last 26 years, which includes rape, battery on a law enforcement officer, resisting arrest with violence, failure of a sex offender to report name or residence change, fugitive from justice, grand theft and drug possession. 27-year-old Faith Holland of Hopkinsville, Kentucky, has been charged with first-degree criminal abuse against a child under the age of 12. She was arrested at her home on West 1st Street on the afternoon of Friday the 30th of December. According to the police, Faith immersed the toddler in hot water, causing severe burns to the child's feet. Her daughter was also found to have bruising on her arm, as well as her abdomen, and appeared to be a result of pinching. There was also a cigarette burn on her hand. Faith reportedly admitted to progressing from minor abuse to immersing the victim in hot water. She is held at the Hopkinsville County Jail. 19-year-old Jesse Narty of Newcastle, Delaware, is behind bars for allegedly fatally stabbing 26-year-old Ashina Williams of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on New Year's Eve. At around 5 p.m. on the 31st of December, Jesse and Ashina were sharing a room together at the Shore Stay Plus Hotel at 1807 Concord Pike in Wilmington, Delaware, when the two got into a heated argument. Upset, Jesse grabbed a kitchen knife and stabbed Ashina multiple times. He then called 911 to report the attack. When first responders arrived, Ashina was pronounced dead at the scene. It's unclear what the argument was about or the relationship between the two. Jesse was taken into custody without incident. He's charged with murder and possession of a deadly weapon, and is held at the Howard R. Young Correctional Institution on a $1.1 million cash bond. The investigation into the matter continues. 62-year-old Philip Hughes is accused of fatally stabbing his 8-year-old grandson on New Year's Day. At around 7:50 a.m. on the morning of Sunday the 1st of January, the authorities responded to a home at 3509 LaBeatty Drive in Richland Hills, Texas, on a report that a juvenile had been stabbed. When officers arrived, they found an unresponsive boy who was declared dead at the scene. An edge-blade weapon believed to be the murder weapon was recovered. Philip, who was identified as a suspect in the killing, had fled the scene. He was quickly located down the road outside Richland Hills Middle School, and he was taken into custody without incident. He was transported to the Joint Detention Center, where he's been held for capital murder and awaiting arraignment. Police said they don't have much information on Philip, and they haven't dealt with him in the past. Philip and the boy reportedly lived together with other family members at the residence, and it said that one of the occupants of the home rang 911 to alert the authorities of the stabbing. The motive in their killing is unclear. Officer Sheena McEachran from the Richland Hills Police Department said we have a lot of questions, just like everyone else has, and throughout the investigation we're hopefully going to be able to answer all the questions and why this tragedy occurred. There's not a lot of words right now to describe a lot of the feelings involved, but we're doing everything we can to investigate this fully and making sure we bring justice for the family. The police department released a statement later that day, saying they would like to express its condolences to those affected by this senseless tragedy and ask for continued prayers for everyone involved. The investigation into the matter continues.